Here we go. Get prepared. You can do
Do, 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 do. Hey, everybody.
It's
Hmm.
Friday.
It's Friday. It's Friday, is what it is.
Do you know when B was in second grade, I guess her teacher used to have like a little song that she sang every morning. And like on Monday, it was one song, on Tuesday, it was another song. And she would like dismiss the little morning circle, and all the kids would walk back to their desk. And the goal was they had to start singing the song when they stood up, but then had to sit down right as it ended. So it was
Yeah.
like just to try and get them to do what they were supposed to do and go to their seats. But her Friday song was always like, "It's Friday, it's Friday, it's Friday." Like that's how it started.
Yeah.
I don't know the rest of it, but I swear to you, not a Friday has passed since B was in second grade that I have not sang, "It's Friday, it's
Nor
Friday."
should you let a Friday pass without singing that.
I mean, it's not like they were stellar lyrics or anything. I could have come up with that, but
Right. Right. How are you, Abby?
hello. I am doing great. I'm super stoked to pick your brain today. I ignore everyone's questions in the chat and just make this all about Abby today because I've got a million questions. So I say that I'm not going to. I'm going to prioritize everyone's questions in the chat first because I can pick Hank's brain any day. But if we do have a dearth of questions, I'm ready to jump in. So
Yeah. You guys send us some questions. Just to recap a little bit, we had Nick Cole and his social media manager, Walt Robillard or Robillard, depending on,
if you
if you
can
pronounce the
speak
L's or not.
French or not.
Exactly, exactly. Uh, and um, and we just kind of recapped Nick's experience with launching Galaxy's Edge and how it became a publishing behemoth. And we just had such a great time talking with Nick and Walt, and it was and if we could condense down that 2 hours that we spent with Nick and Walt, uh, it really came down to listening to your readers and making promises and then delivering on those promises. I mean, it
Yeah.
really, we could try to make it more complicated, but it's really what it comes down to is just, you know,
I mean,
finding.
those guys must have memories like steel traps too, because they've probably got veterans coming at them left and right, center all day long. And to be able to remember who said what and what little pieces are, and to be able to genuinely connect with all of those guys, that's an absolute superpower.
Absolutely,
Absolute superpower. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
So, can we take a moment to celebrate for just a second?
let's do it. I know what you're going to do. Show
I
everybody.
I got cover art for my book that comes out in November today. I'm gonna share just a quick uh peek with you guys. Let's see. Boom.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
Anyway,
it.
that's book one in the Thorns Legacy series coming out November 18th and at a bookstore near you.
That's
So excited.
awesome.
So excited.
So
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, we've got a question from NJ.
Okay,
It's a
NJ.
big one. Are you ready? I'm going to yell it though because it's all caps. In a nutshell, what do you want us all to get out of this week the most?
Um I really think that we could overcomplicate this if we tried, and we could
Mhm.
fill up a lot of time talking about marketing strategies and all that, but really it's about finding your tribe, finding people that appreciate what you do, that you vibe with on a certain level, and making a contract is not the word I'm looking for, but making a pact with those people,
Social contract.
a
Yeah.
social contract that you will
Yeah.
deliver on on what you promise, and they
Mhm.
support you. You deliver more of what they promise. And we talked a little bit about um the other day that Nick and Jason Onspach, who we're going to meet in a couple weeks, they have varied and branched off a little bit to some other series that they write, but they always do it in a way that they can bring their tribe with them.
Mhm.
There's always even if they want to explore new territory, new characters, new subgenres, even they found a way that they can bridge the gap and not exclude anyone. That's not to
Mhm.
say that as a writer you can't do new and interesting things that interest you. That's one reason that pen names exist. And that's a discussion for a whole other day.
Yeah.
Um, but when you have uh, made that social contract, it's just about keeping up your end of it.
Mhm.
What did you take away from it?
So one of the pieces that I think I appreciated the most, um, first of all, those guys weren't afraid to niche down into who their readers were, and that's a piece that I kind of tried to connect for everybody as much as I could last week with that bonus episode about
Yeah,
it's really hard to go find people when you don't know who the heck they are.
right.
So you've got to figure out who your audience is, and
Yeah,
they know who their audience is, and they aren't afraid to go after them one person at a time. And I think that was the thing that just really struck me is we're all so enamored by these vanity metrics. These how many likes do I have? How many subscribers do I have? How many people are in my newsletter list? All of these things. But these guys have found a way to connect very personally with individual members of their reader base. And I think that is what has allowed them to grow. And so I loved it when was Walt on air or off air when he said he used to buy a box of books and take it to the gym with him and just leave them in the waiting area for people to pick up and read.
I kind of think we were still on air. We talked
Okay.
for a long time after we were off the air. So,
Mhm.
but I think he said that live. Pretty sure.
I've always had these bits and pieces of little ideas that I wasn't ever sure if they would work or not. And I've just been waiting to get to the point where I can really try some of these things out. But one of the
Mhm.
things that I always wanted to do was be this like have a not a little free library, but a little free ninja library where I
Yeah,
did not have it like outside my gate or one central place. I wanted
yeah.
to make stickers that slapped on the front of the book that says, if you find this book, it's yours, tag your it sort of thing, and leave them places like
I love
the
that.
the waiting room at the dentist's office. I was trying to think about where would I find kids? Can I leave a couple copies sitting at the park on the bench? Like, what can I do? And I mean, it's me footing the cost of that. That's not me selling books, but that's
Right,
me putting my books into kids' hands, which I'm taking the risk will pay off in a domino effect, you
right.
know.
Guerrilla lending library
Guerrilla Lending Library.
or ninja lending library. I really like that too. That's awesome. Uh,
So I liked that they had that to say.
yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, let's see. We got a
Um,
lot of we got a lot of stuff here. Hold on. Be not yelling, by the way. All right. Here it is. Torn. Two separate genres. How do you juggle kids and fantasy? And to follow that up, she says, which one should I focus more on? And I mean, this question I don't feel like we can answer for you.
right.
That's got to be your gut be that
Exactly.
that goes with
Exactly.
that.
Um,
Um,
I,
let's tackle this
I'll
one.
I'll just put my initial thoughts here. My first thought is if they are drastically different genres, create a pen name for one of them, just so you can segment that. And so you don't have readers uh, reader confusion and reader disappointment because they love you in this one genre, but they don't love fantasy, and they're like, this is kind of weird for me. I don't know. If you pen names kind of draw that, even if you're very public with your pen name, you like
Mhm.
draw a dotted line between them, and people understand that this is a new and different thing from you, and that it may not be for you, but it's still something I'm interested in. And what was I going to say after that?
While you think
Oh,
about it, can I? Oh, go ahead.
no,
You
I
got
was
it.
just going to say that sometimes kid lit and fantasy can blend together. And if that case, if your two subgenres blend together, then just go with it. That would be because there's a lot of kid lit that dips its toe into fantasy. It's definitely not dark fantasy.
Mhm.
But I'm just trying to pull an example off the top of my head, like Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, can be kind of middle grade into fantasy. Even Harry Potter for that, there's certain things that will blend together fine. If it's too much of a of a head jerk, create a pen name. That's what I would think about it.
Yeah, let me show you this actually. So
Okay.
this is one of the websites we're going to look at next week.
Okay.
You guys,
Great.
this is a great segue. Sorry, I've had this habit the last couple of weeks of sitting on my foot, and I
Yeah.
have sat on my right foot so much that it is now, I think, like permanently asleep. Let me switch feet so I can lean in. So this is one of the people that I look at
Okay.
because she writes for 3 different genres. All right, so she writes young adult and she writes adult, and even though she does kind of have a romance element for both,
Yeah.
those are different categories, different audiences. Young adult will have some crossover with adult, but
Sure.
she also writes comics. All right, so that's your like outlier there.
Yeah.
So she writes them all under her name. She doesn't use a pen name. But when you go to her landing page,
She
you
draws
see
a
very clearly.
Yes, she
Yep,
draws a distinction right up front. I
right
like that.
there. And
Yeah.
so, when you can look at her drop downs and you can see what she has, or you can click on the
Yes.
book and it takes you to the book. You can click young adult, it shows you all of her categories. Same thing with adult. She only has 2 in adult, so I think she's kind of like, you know kind of just
So,
dipped her toes.
have you read anything from Jennifer Dugan?
I have read Hot Dog Girl. It's
Okay.
actually right here. I could touch it. um I thought
So
it was good.
so let me ask you
So
this.
mhm.
Is there a huge divide between her young adult and her adult? Like in her adult fiction, are there like super spicy scenes?
Okay, so I've not read her adult books, but I've read
Okay.
the back cover of them, and I think she has an LGBTQ bend to everything. It's not
Okay.
the focus of Hot Dog Girl, but there are characters in there who
Sure.
are more diverse. And I believe her adult books are both also LGBTQ.
Okay. Gotcha.
So because we have girl, 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 girl.
And that
I
doesn't
don't
necessarily mean spicy. I mean, it could
No, it
be. It
doesn't
could.
mean spicy, but that's her connecting thread.
Sure. Understood.
So, it and maybe B, you might not have a connecting thread. So like I know some of the kids' books that you're working on, you're writing very personally for certain children. Um, so I think just like Jennifer did though, if you don't want to use a pen name, you want everything to be run through one spot, which would, to be honest with you, that would be what I would do, only because I don't want the added hassle of trying to juggle 2 websites or remember what was what, or remember, like, I'm just like a keep it simple stupid kind of girl, or keep it stupid simple, I don't know, whatever that KISS is. Not like the but Hank and I have already had this discussion this week. But
and Abby's going as Gene Simmons for Halloween this year. So there's
that's
that.
right. I was Charlie Brown previously, and now I'm Gene Simmons. That goes hand in hand. It's my weirdness is the connecting thread.
Right.
But the thing with Jennifer, and this is part of what I point out next week, is she keeps her website really neutral. It's a really neutral background. It's a really neutral color scheme. You land on the landing page and you just see it right there. So, like for B, you could land on the landing page. It could just be kind of neutral, and you could just see kids and fantasy, and you could let people click. And when they click kids, it takes you to a set of pages that could have one feel to it. And then if you click fantasy, it could take you to a set of pages that have another feel. But you can just bring everything right there to your hub and then go from there. So,
Yeah,
you pulling
there's
up something
no
else to show?
there's no right or wrong
No.
way to do it. I think it's just a matter of understanding your readers and
And
yeah,
as you find out who those readers are and you gather more, you can
yes,
shift, you can alter, you can change. This is a fluid process. It's not
right,
like you're going to do it once and then you're like, well, that's it. That's the end. I can't ever do it again.
right.
I mean, I don't, my first book is going to come out at the end of this year, but I've changed my website 3 times.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's see. NJ has another question here. When creating a following of readers, do you start at your first book or do you wait until you have more? I don't, there's no right or wrong answer.
I'll uh and this is something that I'm going to get Jason Onspach to really go into it, as much detail as we have time for week after next when he comes on, because he and Nick Cole launched Galaxy's Edge at the same time. Nick was known for kind of post-apocalyptic fantasy um, with kind of a his big breakout series was called The Old Man in the Wasteland, and it was the Old Man in the Sea mixed with Cormac McCarthy's The Road. So if you kind of
Yeah,
imagine those two kind of mash up. So that was the kind of stuff that Nick did, and he was very successful at it. Jason had published a trilogy of books that were like how do I explain this? Do you remember that 80s TV show Highway to Heaven,
Mm-hmm.
where Michael Landon was the angel and that grizzled guy that okay. So imagine Highway to was it Highway to Heaven?
I can picture it.
Mixed with like 1950s gumshoe detective.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So love those books. They were so quirky and so that's what he had done. But together they wrote this science fiction space marine story. And their kind of pitch for it was, we're playing in a sandbox with Star Wars action figures, and these are the stories we're telling. They were both like big Star Wars fans, and they had a huge kind of nostalgia for the late 70s, early 80s, kind of thing. And they wanted to tell the story about what if the story was told from the stormtroopers' perspective. And they launched this series by first kind of putting their vision out there, and then starting a subscription service. They wrote a novella called Tin Man, and they launched with that. And they were like, if you want to see more of this kind of thing, and then join our subscription service. We're going to deliver a short story every month. We're working on a series of novels, and they just kind of band-aided this thing together, and they found they started with a proof of concept story, a novella, and launched with that, and then just grew this thing from there. And I'm butchering their story, but and I'll get Jason, because Jason was the mastermind behind this. Like Nick was kind of the creative director of it, but Jason was the mastermind of how to gather this tribe and make sure that they were well served and all of that.
Mhm.
So we'll definitely get his perspective on all that when we talk to him next Wednesday.
I think that the piece that no one is really saying, though,
Yeah.
is that when you're starting at zero, you're going to have some patience.
Yes.
You know, we look at these guys and we're like, oh my God, well, they just threw a Kickstarter up and then like suddenly they were millionaires. And it feels like that when people tell you their story, because they're telling you the parts that are interesting and they're
Yes.
telling you the parts that they know you want to hear.
Yes.
And what they're not telling you is, you know, where did they find their very first reader? Where did they
Right.
find their first 10 readers, their first 100 readers?
Right.
And that's what I think that, you know, a lot of us are sort of clamoring to understand and grasp. And actually, so Beth, who's occasionally she shows up in the chat. Sometimes she comes to our stuff. She followed me here from Happy Writer.
Hello,
She
Beth.
has is Beth here?
Yeah, she just popped a
Oh,
comment.
yeah. So she was telling me this morning she went from 42. Beth, is it okay that I tell them this? That you came with 42 newsletter subscribers and she went like that to 100. And I asked her why, and she put it on Substack. And she said Substack was, hold on, I have to read what she sent me this morning, because I've not really looked into Substack. So we might need you guys to kind of start a Substack thread and start talking to each other, because I know there are a lot of people that have had a lot of success on Substack. And
Right.
they kept Walt and Nick kept saying something about the stackers. And
Yeah,
I was like, is that their Substack
yes.
people?
Yes. Yes. And
Um,
that's a new-ish development for them, because Substack hasn't been a thing that long, but when they
mhm.
realized that it was becoming a thing, then they kind of pivoted. And that's a lesson all in itself, looking for places where traction is happening. And
So Beth said, I doubled my newsletter because it's a Substack newsletter and I got active on Notes over the past week. So Notes must be a part of the Substack thing, right? Yep. I got all those readers from the notes I published.
interesting.
They liked something she said. And she was like, you know, they were strangers.
Yeah.
Whereas before, usually the first couple people that you get to sign up for your newsletter, they're people that you know, they're your friends, they're trying to support you and they're being great, but they might not be your readers.
Right.
And so Beth doubled, you know, more than doubled her newsletter with people who were actual would-be readers. And
Right.
that's super exciting. And so I think you have to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I can think of that I want to do to market my book it's all local stuff.
Yeah.
And what I keep telling myself is, if I start local and I find out who those people are, that's going to help me identify how to take it to the next step.
Right.
And grow outside of my geographic region. Because I am going to go ahead and reach out to a couple of librarians, elementary school librarians, and see if I can't get myself in front of kids where I can have a flyer that has a QR code that, you know, maybe they'll want to order my book. They put it in their parent folder and take it home,
Mm-hmm.
you know, things like that. But I think it's okay to start small, because you have to, the dominoes will come into place once you find something that works for you. And every one of us is different. We all have different personalities. We all have different strengths. We are all writing very different kinds of books. So what works for Hank might not work for me. And I've got to figure that out. And that's one of the hardest things to tell people, is you got to have patience with yourself until you figure that piece out.
Yeah. This feels like a good place to reiterate what we've said before. Hugh Howey talked about building that back catalog before he broke out, um,
Mhm.
which was a huge help to him because once he wrote Wool and it sold a bajillion self-published copies, and then got the attention of Macmillan, I think it was, who traditionally published only the print. He maintained his ebook rights,
Mm.
and while he was working on the next thing that he was going to publish, he had something to sell to them. So he had built a back catalog, even when it felt like no one was reading that back catalog. He was still building it. He was publishing
Yeah.
books, and so we had to. And I saw a video just yesterday or the day before. It was Brandon Sanderson. It was a clip from his class that he teaches at BYU, I think it is, and
Mm.
he was talking about uh, also the importance of uh, building that back catalog. And he said, and he was talking about it from a traditional publishing perspective. But he said that when he first broke out with his first book, Elantris, I think that was his seventh book that he had written. And then Mistborn was his huge breakout. And it was like the 14th book that he had written
Mhm.
before, it. And he was just saying that he was so happy that the first or second book that he wrote didn't get published, because by the time he got to that seventh book and then the 14th book, he understood his process, and he understood that this is how I write, this is how I deal with things that come up. And then when success came, and now all of these things are vying for your attention and pulling you in different directions that have nothing to do with writing. And this is something that nobody talks about, is when you are
Mhm.
successful, so many things will attack you that have nothing to do with writing. And they're all wonderful, great things that will build your
Yeah.
career, but they are not writing. And they will
Mhm.
take you away from writing your next book. So, the to wax biblical for a minute, the Bible says, don't what's the quote, don't despise the days of small beginnings.
Mhm.
That when you feel like you're doing the work and it's not getting you anywhere, that will eventually pay off, that it will matter one day. And so when creating a following of readers, do you start at your first book or wait until you have more? The answer to that is yes. Is it
All of it.
always be looking for readers, but don't be discouraged when you publish your first book and a million people are not lining up to carry your book home. um, One day that might happen for you, and I you know pray that it happens for everybody, but a lot of times it comes with doing the work, building that back
Mhm.
catalog, building yourself as a writer. That's a huge part, and I'm so glad I heard Brandon talking about that, because it resonated so deeply that there are if I would have broken out huge 10 years ago, I would have burned out because I wouldn't have understood how
Mhm.
everything works. And you know
I mean, I I've kind of done the same thing. I've got all these books sitting right here in my drawer waiting. I mean, I'm not saying I'm Brandon Sanderson, but I am
No,
going to
but
say
you understand
you've
your
seen us.
process now.
You've never seen us in the same room together,
Y
right?
you know,
So
I have
maybe I
not.
am.
I have
Maybe
not.
I am. I'm just saying. But I
Yeah,
do understand my process.
yeah,
And I also understand the rhythm and the time that it takes me to get a draft out.
yeah,
And so I can use that now as a means of planning. And I think that's like the piece. I had all these everybody's asking these like really like big, bold, important questions. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, I was just gonna ask like nitpicky, like logistical pieces. You guys
right.
come at us with all these great big questions. Stop being better than my questions. All right, let's do this one. I think this is the next one. I'm trying to keep up with them. Social media platforms are the most useful for connecting with readers. Well, we've just identified that Beth has had really good luck on Substack.
Yeah.
Um, I had that one agent told me that I needed to hit Instagram hard because she's like, your background is cute behind you. You've got all those animals in the yard. Everything that you have is super visual. That would be a really great place for you to start. I mean, again, don't you think, Hank, that a lot of this comes down to what you're good at and where you want to put
Yeah.
your time and your energy? Because to Terry LeBlanc's point, she has said this for years. I will vouch. I have heard her say this for years.
Hmm.
She's like, you don't have to be good at all the social media platforms. She's like,
Right.
just be good at one of them.
Yeah, and find the one where you and the things that you like resonate with other people. It may be Instagram. It may be that you have a very visual way of communicating, and that's the place to. It may be Facebook because there's a reader group on there that you're a member of, and you just form relationships with people based on mutual interest and like, and it grows organically like that. Substack is becoming a huge player. Yeah, I've seen people that find their tribe on Goodreads, because you're both reading things that are similar and interesting. And
Mhm.
I don't think the obsessing over what the platform is not as important as finding where people are and where you can fit in, and then just becoming a part of that community.
Mhm.
And Twitter or X is a dumpster fire. But if that's, if your people are in the dumpster fire, go get in the dumpster fire. I mean, I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying as an example.
Fan of a great dumpster fire, though. Sometimes they're interesting when one of those happens. You're like, oh, this
Yeah,
gives me
yeah,
something to talk about. All right. What advice can you give broke writers on how to advertise our work to readers?
Uh, I'm gonna defer this question to our talk with Jason Onspach and in
Okay.
next week,
Let's
because
put a pin in this.
let's put a pin in this, um,
Okay.
because that's exactly what they did. They spun up a multi-million-dollar business from nothing, and so and they have a very specific story, but I think it's a story that is worth hearing.
Nice. All right. Is it helpful to focus on one genre as your focus, or to write several different ones to gain a broader audience? Do
I
you have
I was just going to say that, look, what you said earlier about again Nick and Jason, and Nick is just at the top of my mind because we had that long
Mhm,
conversation with him this week. Is they went super niche, and you said this one day last week. We were talking about something, and I think it was you that said, the more specific you get,
mhm.
the
Yep, that's
wider
me.
open your opportunities are, which is,
Yeah.
it seems counterintuitive, but
It's not, and I'll tell you where I got that from,
okay,
because I was splitting hairs, writing my
yeah,
first book. I didn't know if I wanted my main character to be 10 or 11, or if I wanted her to be 11 or 12. Right. And
mm,
you're like, why would you split hairs with that? And I'm like, well, in middle grade, a 10-year-old and 12-year-old are actually, I mean, you've raised kids. They're
yep,
pretty different, right?
yes,
So, and I was trying to be really broad. I wanted to write something that was going to appeal to everybody. 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds. Like I was wanting to appeal to a huge readership. So Jenny Nash, who was my coach at the time, she was going to the gym, and there was a lady at the gym that was a children's librarian at one of the big, like, Los Angeles library branches, right? And so Jenny very purposely went and got on the machine next to this lady so she could pick her brain. And what the librarian told her was that J.K. Rowling had nailed what it was like to be 12 years old, a
mm,
12-year-old boy who did not feel like he fit in anywhere, and then was thrown into this overwhelming magical world and reacted the same way any 12-year-old might react. And because she was able to so realistically portray what it meant to be 12, everyone identified with it. And that was the key. And I've never really forgotten that. The idea that if you can be really, really specific, you're actually going to speak to more people than if you try and please everyone.
Right.
So, to answer NJ's question, I feel like we aren't the ones qualified to tell you this. No one should tell you what you should write or what you should specialize in or what you need to focus on. I mean, we can tell you like these are ways that we've seen people do it and hack the system and have success with it, but these people aren't you.
Right.
And you don't need our permission to write in 10 different genres if you want to write in 10 different genres. And maybe you write in 10 different genres until you find the one that you just can't stop writing in. And that's the journey that you were meant to take to come to the one that you're supposed to focus on. Maybe you write in 10 different genres and you absolutely freaking love every one of them. And that's just who you are. And if that's the case, yeah, you might have taken on a harder marketing challenge, but maybe out of those 10 genres, you sell really great in one or two, but you still love writing in the other 8. And so you keep doing it. There's nobody to tell you can or can't do these things.
Right.
I think where we put a lot of pressure on ourselves is when we decide we want to do this and we want to transition into being full-time writers. And wanting to transition into a full-time writing career is a lot of pressure that, if not careful, could suck all the joy out of it for you. Right. And you could forget why you're doing it in the first place. Yeah. We see all these successful Nicoles out there who are doing it, and we want to be the same and we want to replicate what they did. But the truth was, if they were replicating somebody else, they wouldn't have gotten where they are today.
Yes.
So
yes,
and that's the end of my soapbox.
Well, and they were trying to hit a very specific reader by trying to hit a very specific feeling. They wanted to be kids in a sandbox playing with Star Wars action figures. Now that's a very specific memory or a piece of nostalgia. But what you realize is that a lot of other people can plug into that nostalgia. And by being super specific, it's so counterintuitive. But when you really start pondering, it really makes sense. Star had a great comment about that. She said, I've seen some advice elsewhere. I feel like it's in a Writer's Digest magazine to write for one very specific person rather than a general smattering of people. And I think that goes to that feeling that we're talking about.
That's what I did with this. So this is my book, A Little Trouble Goes a Long Way, that's getting ready to go out. And, I said this in Friday's material, and then I said it again on Tuesday when I taught that class for the Readers Summit. But I wrote this with one child in mind.
Yeah.
I think because I gave him a fake name for the presentation. His name's Turner. I don't remember what I called him. Tucker or something, but Turner. And I wrote this just for Turner. Now, Turner said to me when I was like, hey, dude, what do you like to read? He was, and I'm not joking when I say this was his answer. I don't know, stuff about killing stuff. I was like, killing what? Turner, I'm like, what are you killing? And he's like, I just like reading books about like violence and killing. And I'm like, I'm not writing that. But I wrote the essence of what I thought Turner was. Yeah. And everything that the boys do in the story, they make me think of something that Turner and his brothers would do. I mean, I did my best to just channel him. And his mother told me this week he has read the book 6 times now. And I said, well, congratulations. He has read it more times than I have.
I love that.
I think if you get to the point where you do that, I mean, that's a piece of advice that I think it doesn't matter where you are in your writing career. It doesn't matter what you're writing. It doesn't matter. If you can hone in on that one person, it really does make them easier to find, because Turner has become this caricature for my readers in my head. And I know how to talk to him. I know the things that pull him in from the yard, that get him to sit down. If it can do it for him, it can do it for other kids too. And so it's giving me a focus to try in my marketing, because that's the other thing. You don't really know if it's going to work until you try it. But if you have 10 choices, how are you supposed to figure out which one to try first, especially if budgets are limited?
Right.
But if you have 10 choices and you think, well, my ideal reader would definitely fall for number 2 or number 7.
Right.
Now you have a direction to try. And I think that's part of what's really important. If you didn't do it at the beginning, it's not too late, I think, to do it at the end. And if, then the question is, what if I wrote the book for myself? And I'm like, that's great. Write the book for yourself. How does someone sell to you?
Yeah.
I mean, and that we don't always want to, if you're me, dissect how people manipulate me into turning over my money. But you just have to look at how you would market to someone who was just like you.
Yeah. And the tendency is to think that we are all special snowflakes, and we are individual and special and all of that. But by focusing on that one individual reader that you're writing for and marketing to, you start realizing that there's a lot that connects us, that we are the same on a lot of levels. And it's, that's why, going for, I'm going to write for the 12-year-old boy, that's okay. Well, there's a lot of people that can connect with that. But by focusing on that specific element of that, then you're tapping into something broader.
Yeah. NJ, we're going to put a pin in this question too, because newsletters is coming up.
Yeah.
We're actually going to do a whole section. Hank's working on that for newsletters. So we're going to put a pin in that one for now.
Yeah.
So this one's good. How to talk about what you're working on without spoiling your next book. Can I show another example of that? I will use my own website. I will use my own. Okay. Let me sit on my right foot again, even though it's still asleep from last time.
We don't want you to stand up at the end of this and fall flat on your face because your feet are asleep.
I'm like, my knee is killing me. I don't know if it's just because I'm older now and this is just how it goes.
And sitting on your foot too long will give you sciatica pain. So.
Oh, stop. Don't tell me this. My husband's like, get a different desk, get a different chair, get a different. I'm like, no, I don't want any of those things. Okay. IvyMatthews.org. All right. So here's my website. We're actually breaking it down next week. And you guys have been like so agonizing over
I love
my
your
own
logo
website.
at the top of the page, by the way.
Thank you. That was like some clip art I bought off at Etsy that had the right permissions for it. And then I changed all the colors and I put it all together. And anyway, okay. So thank you. I thought it was very Abby too. And actually the logo for my publishing, like doing business as publishing thing, is a lamb, because my maiden name is Lamb, and it has big glasses on it. And I think that's really cute. So, all right. So this is the book that I have that is, I'm trying to work on getting the pre-orders up. Really thought that's what we were going to talk about today, you guys.
That cover art rocks. Every time I see it, I want to laugh. And that's exactly what you're going for.
Well, and because I sent him the picture. This is the coffee can that I bought at an antique shop or a junk shop or something, and I've kept my pencils in it for years. So when I wanted them to drive the boys to drive this coffee can, I always imagined this was it. So I called it the judge. I did all these things. Anyway, I've sent him so many pictures, my illustrator. He's been so awesome. But so this is the book, and I have the jacket copy, and I have everything. Like, it's all set, it's ready. But I have these two other books. Now, they are both already written,
Yeah.
right? The one that I'm doing with Jeff, we do have the jacket copy. So this is the jacket copy that will eventually, some version of this is going to go on the back of the book, right? And
Okay.
I pretty much, like, I know, like, that's the book. We're not going to really stray from it. If we do, and I adjust this jacket copy at some point, I am just going to come back to my website and update it. Right. But I'm not afraid of sharing this because I pretty much know what that is. Now, the other book that I'm going to release next year is a chapter book. And I do not have jacket copy down here. So what I did instead was I wrote a little bit about what inspired me to write this book. So it's a chapter book for my younger readers. I put it right there. I have just the year. It's coming out next year. This is the title. It's kind of still the working title. I'm not really sure. Stu the Duck is going to be the series, and this particular book is the Pizza Dizza Ringer Dinger. But it says this book is based on the in real life Stu the Whistling Duck, who lives at the Bush Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, I have thought about linking this back to Bush Wildlife and or to pictures of Stu and videos of Stu, which I have. So this is all sort of a work in progress, but keep in mind, I'm going to make this a little more interactive, right? So there's nothing wrong with Stu, because generally, the animals that live at the wildlife sanctuaries are the ones that they can't release back into the wild because they're missing an eye or a wing or whatever, right? So there's nothing wrong with the real Stu per se, except he doesn't like other ducks. The real Stu's wanderings led him repeatedly to the produce section inside the local grocery store, where he'd help himself to endless snacks while he chatted with the customers. Multiple attempts were made to reintroduce Stu to the local flock of black-bellied whistling ducks, but he always found his way back to the grocery store. As it turns out, he just prefers the company of humans. Intended to be a series about finding your people, literally. In this first installment, Stu wanders into town and joins the local elementary school children for field day. Spoiler, his natural talent for ducking helps him win the class a first place ribbon in dodgeball. So that's what I did. I just gave the backstory and like a snippet of it. It's not the jacket copy. It's just enough that I hope if some kid sees that and reads that, it's enough to make them feel interested. Where is she going with this? Like I said, I want to link back to the wildlife sanctuary. I have like a bazillion pictures of Stu on my phone. I need to put a couple pictures of Stu in there. I want to give Stu his own page. So, I mean, one thing that I can do, and I haven't done this yet, is you could theoretically click on this and go to things about Welcome to Everywhere. I could click on this and go to all my pictures about Stu and the things that I've written about Stu. I could click on this and go to the pictures of my pigs that are in the yard. Like, I could give each book its own page that didn't necessarily even have anything to do with what I'd written and everything to do with why I wrote it, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then you're not really spoiling the plot. You're not really spoiling anything, but you're generating that interest. So how do you do it, Hank? How do you talk about what's coming next?
In a similar way, I like to talk about things that inspire or are related to, or if we're talking about like the series that I have publishing, Thorn's Legacy, it's inspired by Star Wars. It's inspired by it's a found family story. It's about finding your true purpose, and it all while dealing with the letdowns and the uh things of family. And so finding ways to talk about stories about that will help people resonate with the story, in a very similar way that you did, but without having an actual duck sanctuary to point people to.
I also wrote a book because I love the animal sanctuary here. And they have an eagle that only has one eye, and his name is Hannibal. I mean, which is a terrible name if you're going to write a character into a children's book, but I totally did it. I wrote him in. And the funny thing is, because my kids don't really know who Hannibal is or anything, like they gloss
Yeah.
right over it. And by the end of the book, Hannibal was not Hannibal Lecter. It was Hannibal, the one-eyed eagle who was allergic to everything, and his sneezing totally got the main character in trouble. But I do tend to write about things that are here, like right
Yeah.
in front of me. I found a lot of inspiration there. Not
Yeah.
everybody's like that. If all your stuff is here, you might have to be creative about how can I share this with the world without, giving them the nuts and bolts of my plot. So,
Yeah.
um, let's see. How we do? I'm scrolling through. I don't know that I don't know that we have any more questions. Do you see any that we missed?
I don't see any that we missed.
You guys are having a good conversation in the chat, though.
Yeah, which is exactly the way it should work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Find people that uh that like similar things that you do. And the big thing is, don't go into a new community trying to sell everybody. Go into a new community, find a place to fit in, find interests that you share with other people, and start building a relationship with them that will lead to you being able to turn them on to the art that you make. And just be nice. Don't don't go in and beat people over the head with your book. I've seen that happen a lot, and it usually doesn't end well.
yeah. Even if the book is good,
Even if
right?
the book could
A
be
lot.
the best book ever.
Although a
You know,
lot of times when I see that, the book's not very good. I'm like,
right, right. It was a hypothetical that it could be the best book ever. It's usually not. Yeah, yeah. Lead them, don't browbeat them. Well said, B. Well said.
yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
the gentle parent, those
And
people.
you'll sell a whole lot more books, um, if you are a fan of Star Wars, for instance, and you find other people that are fans of Star Wars, and you tell this story that's inspired by that, and you build a relationship with these people, and they understand your love for it, and you understand their love. When you have a book come out, all these people will be interested to see your take on it, because they understand the connection that you have with them. And instead of just coming in and saying, we all love Star Wars, and then cram your book down their throat. It's a it's a subtle difference, but it's a difference.
Yeah. Here's the good question. Hank, tell me yours. What's your favorite one that you've written? Your favorite book?
My favorite book so far is a book I wrote called Writer's Block. It was a story. My daughter had a brain tumor. She was in the ninth grade or 10th grade, and she had surgery for it, and it's all well. She's amazing. She's got a 2-year-old daughter and another one that's due in a couple of weeks. She's doing amazing. So this is not a sad story. But as a dad, I was processing all of this that we were going through, and I wrote this story about a little girl who was terminally ill. My daughter was not terminally ill, thank God. And a washed up writer, who had a very successful trilogy that he was publishing. He had turned in 2 books, and he had found such uh, massive success that he couldn't finish the 3rd book, and he had some personal tragedy in his life, and you don't learn that all of in the beginning. But this relationship between this terminally ill girl and this washed up writer kind of happened in a magical realism, small Mississippi town kind of thing. And it was my way of processing the grief I was going through, and it came out in a way that resonated with a lot of people. And I got emails from people saying that they snot cried while reading it, which is the best review I've ever gotten, is I made someone snot cry. But that's mine. And then I have a lot of other books that I've written that I really like, but that's the one that I love the most.
Yeah. Oh God. I don't know. There are bits and pieces of all of them that I just love more than anything. But
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, topping this list is the one that's getting ready to come out in December. Not just because it's floated to the top of the pile to make it out. I mean, I learned a lot with the first couple, but there's some family connections in this one for me. So the farmer and his wife are actually my great grandparents, and I used their names, and great grandma Hatley was supposed to be like the nicest woman that you've ever met on the face of the planet. I did give her a little snark. I injected a little of myself into her. But I love that. And just the fact that, the characters all came out of my yard, and I used some of my animals' real names in there. And
Love it.
there's just a lot of connections it makes me feel like I'm home reading it. And so that's got to win for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, and NJ's because B said, NJ, what's yours? A Dance in the Garden. So,
Or what's the thing? I don't.
oh, this
Yeah.
one,
That one.
the Korean heart. That's what the kids do. I can't. My fingers don't do that right. They don't
Yeah.
do it right.
I have arthritis, so
B, Isabel and the Panda Posse. It's gonna be
love it.
hers. And her dragons, her dragon cats. So, all right. I mean, that leads us up to the top of the hour here.
Yeah.
I didn't get to ask you anything about pre-orders and going wide versus going narrow or any of those things. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we can continue
cover it.
this discussion in the Dabble U Academy. If anybody has specific
Yeah.
questions about any of that stuff, post it in there, and we'll chime in. I'll get some feedback from some experts if somebody has specific questions. Put it there.
Yes. How do you do pre-orders? That's the question I came with on the tip of my tongue that I've been dying to ask. So, can I break it down? Can I ask you?
Absolutely.
Really fast?
Yeah.
Like, let's see if we can keep it under 5 minutes. I don't know that we
do
can,
it.
but let's try it. Okay. So here's the piece I'm not sure about.
Okay.
All right. So let's just say, if you're like me, I have my manuscript, but my manuscript is still getting line edits right now. It's caught up because I had to get at the end of the line with another editor. I mean, it was just a whole thing. But it's still caught up. I know how many pages it is right now. I cannot imagine that it's going to come back from the line editor and she's going to be like, you need extra chapters. I mean, that's the developmental editors.
Yeah. You're fixing commas and periods at this point.
Yeah. I'm just doing, and then I'm going to send it off for proofread. So I'm pretty sure it's 248 pages. Like, we're there. Okay.
Yeah.
I got my cover. I got everything. I've got everything but the final manuscript because it's still held up. Now, I want to have a pre-order. I went to Ingram Spark and it says you could upload a dummy manuscript.
Yes.
But they need 4 to 6 weeks of lead time when you replace it before you can publish it. How does this work? It makes me not want to put anything up until I have a real manuscript. And is KDP the same or
Okay.
different?
All right. Ingram, that's surprising to me because that's not the deal with KDP. Um, KDP, if you're talking about ebooks
Mhm.
specifically, I think you need 3 or 4 days lead time
Okay.
at the most.
What
Now,
about
granted,
print?
ebook, well, I'm not sure about print. I'll have to look into that. I will look into it for you though. Um, I don't think it's that long, but I do think that there's a little lead time for the
Mhm.
the things that you mentioned. They need to make sure the placeholders for the page count and all that are the same. Um, so, but it's not as long as Ingram. Um, like 72 hours pieces. That sounds right. That sounds right.
Okay.
Um, that it's not long. Um, and but what I tell people is don't put a book up for pre-order until you have a finished book.
Mhm.
Now in your case, you have a finished book. It's doing some, the
The
uh
polishing
the
pieces.
polish, the polish.
Yeah.
So I consider that a finished book.
Mhm.
So what you don't want to do is have a book 50% finished and say, I'm going to put this up for pre-order October 1. I've got plenty of time to finish it. And then a tree
Yeah.
falls on your house tomorrow and then you can't finish the book, then you get penalized by Amazon and you can't do pre-orders anymore and all this kind of stuff. So have a finished book. Maybe it's not finished in the editing process or the fine
Mhm.
polish process. That's okay. Give yourself enough lead time to make sure that does happen. um, Worst case scenario, and I mean this is a worst case scenario. I don't recommend anybody do this, but if it comes down to it, and you have to put up your version that doesn't have that final
That
polish,
file.
you can and then replace it. I don't
Yeah.
recommend that, but I would rather you do that than take a penalty for not publishing on
For
time.
having it.
Yeah. So
So I'm guessing that the strategy is then because, like, if I'm looking at and this is again, we're really covering this in a couple of weeks when we talk about launch plans, right?
yeah.
Because I've got a calendar laid out in front of me, and I know that the copy editor, after it's done with the line edits, I
Hmm.
already have an appointment to go back for proofreads
Yeah.
and to get on her list for proofreads. It comes back to me the first week in November.
Okay.
So I was afraid. I gave myself then 4 weeks after that as my publishing date because
Yeah.
if I want to pre order, I thought, well, I have to have that lead time for Ingram Spark. Can you have all your pre orders only go to KDP?
Sure.
And then you add on Ingram Spark later so that you
Yeah.
can sell at indie bookstores and then you can do
Yes.
things like that. So,
Yeah.
like, that's a strategy. And that way, I could theoretically put this book out before the second week of December, which is what I
Yes.
was afraid I was going to have to do. And that's right in the middle of Christmas.
Yeah.
So, I would prefer to actually be able to release it in November of this year so that you
Yes.
can take advantage of the
Yes.
holiday season.
So pre-orders are going to do a couple of things for you. They're going to give you the ability to promote your book before it comes out,
Mhm.
and then this is the big thing. Any pre-orders that you get for the book, um,
Count for the
then
first week.
well, they go on your day one sales. So the
Okay.
day that your book releases, if you've got 50 pre-orders, those are 50 sales on day one. So
Mhm.
you go into launch day with 50 sales, which primes the algorithm, which helps to build some momentum, get you some placement with Amazon, get you some, all of the machinery working that all of that matters to help get your book positioned correctly. And then when you get the algorithm working, it starts promoting your book for you and all of that. So any of that pre-sale that you can make happen so that when the book launches, you have all that
You've
the
got a boost.
inertia already working.
So if you're going to have an arc, and this is the other thing. I mean, I have these little beta reading copies that I
Yeah.
did with, but I wouldn't necessarily, because I'm trying to turn it around real fast after it comes back from the proofreader and get it
Mhm.
out for the holiday season. Is it unreasonable to take the copy that I have right now and make an arc from that to start getting people to read it, to get some reviews? Or is it better to wait until it's been at least the line edits?
No, I would start circulating that copy that you have now. I'm
Okay.
um trying to grab an arc off my shelf that
Because you just put a big thing over the top that says
yeah,
like arc,
so
right?
so this is a Ken Follett book. It's the cover art, but the spine
Nothing.
and the back cover are just white with a bunch of text,
Okay.
and it's got a big sticker right here on the front, and the sticker says "Advanced Uncorrected Bound Manuscript." Do not hold on. Gotta put my glasses on because I can't read the small type.
Corrected.
But it
Okay.
says, "Do not quote from this without checking with the publisher first." So it's
Okay.
telling you that this is the story, but it's not the final polish put on it. So,
Hmm.
you know, and that's
Yeah.
any arc that I get is always like that. It's an um as a matter of fact, here's a Kindle edition of an arc of John Grisham's new book that comes out in January. And it says on the cover, I just accidentally turned on my Kindle. It says uncorrected proof right there.
Hmm.
So this is the
NJ's
book.
asking a
Yeah.
question about that. Arcs are free books to select people, correct?
Yes.
Like, yeah, you as the author are paying for it too. Hmm.
Yes. Yes. You,
Yep.
you do not charge for arcs. And I have bookshelves full of arcs, and you can't sell those. You can donate them like to libraries or stuff like that, but you have to be very careful with like what you do
Hmm.
with them once you get them. It kind of gets
Yeah.
to be a hassle when you get a whole bunch of them sent to you because you're like, well, now what do I do with it? So
Yeah. How many arcs, NJ wants to know, should you do?
um arc should be used to build buzz for your book and to get advanced reviews. Ultimately, what you want to do is when you send arcs out, request, never demand, request that people read the book and post a review when it launches, and that's going to help also to prime that algorithm to get that machine working for you. When Amazon sees a bunch of pre-orders that launch on day one and you get a bunch of reviews, it it senses that this is a popular book and wants to be uh
It
you know
wants
yeah,
eyeballs.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
B says,
as many as you can legitimately think that you can get reviews in from, and
so,
not everyone you sell out is going to get your review, but
right. B says KDP has the limit set at 5. I was actually thinking about just, and I haven't priced everything out yet because Spark, because I signed up this week and I put in all my information and my EIN and my tax things and my credit card, like I set the whole thing up, but I tried to get in it this morning and it says they're still processing my account and it takes like 3 to 5 days or whatever, and it's been
yeah,
more than 3 days, so I'm going to check back at that.
yeah,
I know that the Lulu books were
yeah.
about $7.50 to order. I don't know if it's going to be cheaper on Spark. I'm assuming it's going to be cheaper on KDP, but I was
Probably.
going to price it around and then order them for myself wherever they were.
And most reviewers now are accustomed to e-arcs. You create an EPUB version of your book and distribute it that way. Put it in Dropbox, send them a link to the Dropbox or Google Drive or email if it's not too big.
Mhm.
And most people are happy to read it on their Kindle or whatever, or their iPad or
Yeah,
whatever, and
that's
do the review,
free
and
for
it
you.
costs you nothing to do that.
Yeah. I think I keep defaulting to print books just because I'm talking about kids.
Yes, yes,
So
you're a
it's a
different,
little
uh, a different
different
situation, but
breed.
most adult readers, an e-arc is all they expect. That
Mhm.
that has, especially during COVID, that transition really started happening when UPS was not delivering as much and all of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, we didn't keep it to 5 minutes, but we kept it to 10.
that's that's
That's not
success
too
for
bad.
us. Woo.
We're getting good at this, Hank.
Right. Thank you all for joining us.
Yes.
You guys have made our Friday afternoon get together so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. B said 147. Okay, good. I asked how many pages hers was. So I got about 100 pages on you. So still sounds like it would come under less than Lulu. But
Yeah,
Lulu's got this real nice matte cover that feels kind of,
I love the matte cover.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm assuming they have that on KDP, right?
Yes, they do. They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you
See you
on
guys Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Websites.
I
Bye. Huh?
and I have a special show Monday with Claire Fraze. We're going to be talking about the plot grid, and she's a
Yeah.
hardcore plot grid user, and I'm going to pick her brain about it. So join us
Yeah.
Monday for that.
Love it. See you
Yeah.
guys. Have a good weekend. TGI.